Hello and welcome to Wineskins, a program that features the lives of the saints and reflections on the Sunday readings, along with information on a variety of topics and issues from a Catholic perspective. I'm Father Jim Corda. Our program is brought to you through the annual Bishop's Appeal, the Catholic Communication Campaign, and St. Paul's Catholic Books and Gifts, a division of the Society of St. Paul. Our interview segment today will feature Ursuline sisters Norma Ruppel and Regina Rogers in part 2 of our television series called Spotlight. We will also get a glimpse into the life and times of St. Januarius, along with reflections on the readings for this 24th Sunday in Ordinary Time. That and more on Wineskins. Now I'll speak with Matt Sammartino, the principal of Ursuline High School. Joining me now is Matt Sammartino, who is a principal of Ursuline High School. And Matt, it's such a pleasure to have you on the show today.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
You know, when we talk about Ursuline, it's a great tradition, like many of the schools in our diocese. But Ursuline, I obviously have a fondness because I'm an alumnus of Ursuline, 1971. And so I like to hear good things and wonderful things about the school. And I know your presence there as principal, you've got some nice and wonderful things that are going on. Tell us about some of those things right now.
Sure. Well, this is actually year 110 for Ursuline, and we welcome a nice size freshman class. And our enrollment is up again. This is our 4th consecutive enrollment increase. So we're very pleased with that. A lot of things going on at Ursuline. Over the summer, we completely gutted the chemistry lab. This is phase 1 of the remodeling the whole science wing. The chemistry lab is all brand new lab benches, new teacher station, new fume hoods, gas lines, water lines, all those things you need for chemistry and to do the experiments, and even a shower. So there's some new safety features as well. And then next summer we'll complete phase 2, where we take 3 classrooms and make 2 larger life science or biology labs. We also have just done a lot of work. The auditorium was upgraded, so new curtains, new sound system. A new roof is being worked on right now. The gymnasium just needed some new touch-ups here and there, a new scoreboard and some painting. So a lot of things going on to maintain our facility. It's an old facility, but it's well maintained and updated on a very regular basis.
It really is. And when anyone goes there, that's the first thing they notice.
Absolutely.
There's obviously the age, but yet when you walk into the place, you're thinking that you're in a totally remodeled, wonderful new space. And I think that has to do something for the students that are there, because they see this happening. And education is probably one of the most important things besides the faith, obviously. Why is it so important for Ursuline to teach the faith and to teach good academics?
Well, first and foremost, we only exist because we are a Catholic school. That is our mission, to really help these young men and women who are facing so many obstacles in society to really be their own person, to live their faith, and to kind of confront those challenges the way we want them to. And so that is our first and foremost mission. And of course, academics are important. And we have a tremendous academic program. We have a very rigorous college preparatory curriculum. We have as many AP and honors classes as any other school in this area. And our students are really challenged, and they perform well. Our scores exceed state and national averages, and our students are accepted into very rigorous schools. And our recent class, which was our smallest, which only 78 students, probably the smallest since the 30s, they still received over $8 million in scholarships. 70% of the class received a scholarship. So we're real proud of that. And part of that is the colleges know that it is a rigorous environment for the students. So they want our students. But first and foremost always is our mission as a Catholic school.
What are some of the challenges that lie ahead for Ursuline, but for Catholic education in general?
Well, I think the most obvious is the expense. An average family, it is a major sacrifice to send their students to a Catholic school. So we're trying to confront that by growing every year our financial aid program. So we have a lot of generous alumni and parents and friends of the school who are constantly establishing scholarships or giving money through the Adopt a Student program. And so that helps to make it a little more affordable. But that is definitely a major challenge. And the other one, of course, is keeping up our enrollment. And so that's something we're always working on as well.
Now, as you look down to the future, like let's say 5 years from now, what are some of the things that you would like to, in closing, accomplish, especially during your time as principal?
Well, I think always moving the academic program forward, continuing to evaluate what we offer, and integrating that technology and integrating those new learning standards are important. And just really maintaining and expanding our religious education programs. So we're always looking to how can we best serve our students through service programs or new religion classes, just to continue the tradition. I have to mention Patricia Fleming, who just retired, and I have big shoes to fill. She really was a fantastic principal, and so I hope to live up to the standards that she set and continue to move the school forward.
Well, Matt Sammartino, I'm sure that you will more than fill those shoes that Mrs. Fleming left. And we certainly wish you well here at Wineskins and CTNY. We know that being a principal in a Catholic school nowadays is really a very challenging but yet rewarding experience. And so we know that you'll continue the fine tradition of Ursuline High School. And we thank you for doing that.
Thank you. I love my work. Thank you.
For Wineskins, I'm Father Jim Corda. Saint Januarius was a bishop and martyr. To tell us more is Jim Kravanik. He is from St. Michael Church in Canfield.
Saint Januarius, popularly known as San Gennaro, was martyred with 6 companions near Naples, Italy, sometime around the year 305. His feast is listed in the Jerome calendar. The feast is likewise celebrated in the Eastern churches, although Byzantines celebrate it on April 20th. The most ancient reference to the existence of St. Januarius is in a biography of St. Paulinus of Nola. Describing the death of St. Paulinus, the author says, Paulinus began to ask in a clear voice where his brethren were. One of the priests, thinking that he was referring to his brother bishops who had just celebrated the Eucharist with him in his bedroom, responded, "Your brethren are all here with you." But he answered, "I am speaking of Januarius and Martin of Tours, my brothers in the episcopate, who a little while ago were speaking to me and promising me that soon I would join them." San Gennaro, bishop and martyr, is a special patron of Naples. Connected with this feast is the liquefaction of his blood 4 times a year, the first Saturday of May, September 19th, in the octave of the feast, and sometimes on December 16th. The blood liquefies when the reliquary is exposed. There is historical proof of this event since the 13th century, and some popes have attached indulgences to the veneration of the relic. The opening prayer of the Mass is taken from the Gregorian Sacramentary, God our Father, enable us who honor the memory of St. Januarius to share with him the joy of eternal life. The feast serves to remind us of the importance of the office and ministry of a bishop. The excerpt from a sermon of St. Augustine in the Office of Readings contains a significant statement. "This is why being set above you fills me with alarm, whereas being with you gives me comfort. Danger lies in the first, salvation in the second." Apart from the seemingly miraculous liquefaction of the blood, the veneration of San Gennaro has a firm foundation because, as we read in Lumen Gentium, we seek from the saints example in their way of life, fellowship in their communion, and the help of their intercession. This constitutes the relevance of this feast to our day. For Wineskins, I'm Jim Kravanik from St. Michael Parish in Canfield.
We're talking with Sister Norma Roppel and Sister Regina Rogers, Ursuline Sisters of Youngstown. When we took a little break, prior to that, we talked about young women who are really maybe interested in the community. And I know that vocations nowadays is a crucial element in the life of our church. We know that we are experiencing fewer priests, fewer religious women. And so there's a tremendous effort in the church today, and especially locally, for us to pray and foster those vocations. So tell us, Sister Norma, what your community is doing in particular to foster vocations among young women.
Well, we Ursulines really believe that we have a wonderful life together, and responding like all people are called to do, to live the gospel fully. And we really invite young women The median age today, some studies shows, is actually 30 years old for new members. And in the future, there will be more diversity among the different ethnic immigrant communities, and also more diversified in professional backgrounds. Whereas, as Sister Regina mentioned earlier, most of us were professional teachers, and our educational background was in education. But we invite women of all professions who believe in growing in their relationship with Jesus, living and proclaiming gospel values, to just get to know us and see what our life is like.
And how does that enhance the local community of Ursulines by having a diverse group and having perhaps women coming as a second career? What does that do for your community?
I think it really has helped us to experience different prayer styles. It brings different conversation to the table. It has enhanced our lives. And I think going out into the world, it gives us a better idea of people today, where they're at and what their concerns are. Now, in our community, the thing that's happened is Sister Norma has brought in a lot of younger women, and it's been exciting to be around the Mother House with women who are in their 20s and 30s. But Sister Norma can talk more about that.
I'm sure it's a wonderful experience.
We do encourage young people, especially in the summer, for students who are away at college during the year and come back to Youngstown. We offer internships, service learning programs every summer beginning May 18th for 6 weeks until June 25th. And seasonally, we also offer weekend retreats each season, which we call them discernment retreat weekends, because we just have Sister Regina tells her vocation story, and we have other young adults talk about discernment in their lives, how to get to know yourself and focus more on your relationship with God to see how those two things mesh. And possibly there's a call to God, from God to them, that this really would be the life, the way of love that would really make them happy.
Well, I would think also it's not only encouraging and fostering a vocation, but it's an encouraging internal spiritual holistic growth in that individual.
Yes.
So whether they respond to the call or not, you have done something to instill within them this, whatever it is, that will make them better. And that's your experience as well?
Yes, that's very true.
And I think the other program that Sister Norma has started is she goes into the different colleges, Youngstown State, Walsh, Hiram, and presents religious life as an alternative to, looking at the business world or some, other lifestyle, so that people can be thinking about maybe it is for me.
We actually have a whole committee called Young Adult Outreach, where we include John Carroll, Kent, Akron. So we really are just trying to use opportunities like this one that we're very grateful for to get the word out about who we are and what a viable and fulfilling way of life.
And it is important to get the word out. And, sometimes we can do that in very simple ways, but sometimes it's important to be aggressive in our approach. I think especially nowadays in the church with the situation that we're in with vocations. And so that is okay to do that. I think another aspect that I'd like us to briefly talk about before we conclude this second segment is that spirit of collaboration with other religious communities, because that's happened across the country. And that really is important and crucial. Has that been your experience?
I think before Vatican II, communities really stayed to themselves. And since Vatican II, we've been very fortunate to collaborate with other religious communities, particularly the ones in our area. Presently, we've been collaborating with the Humility of Mary Sisters. We collaborate with the Cleveland Ursulines, and it's nice. It's nice to share gifts and talents with each other. So it really has been very positive. It's nice to go into a room of sisters and know them personally.
Sure. And I would imagine, Sister Norma, with bringing the young women in to discern a vocation, that you teach and share that spirit of collaboration, because that's really what drives us in the church today. Isn't that true?
Yes, that is true. And they often visit more than one congregation. But in the future, there will be fewer men and women in the consecrated life. So they are more than ever going to need the support and the networking among the different orders. And I think that's one thing that Pope Francis asked us to do in his letter. And I think we're doing that. And I think we also see the need for that, but we can still grow in it.
What would be your hope for a young woman coming in to discern religious life now? What do you want to ask them, or what would you ask them to think about?
I think the first thing I would ask them to think about is, what are they really passionate about? Because once you realize what you're passionate about, that's what you're willing to give your life to. And so hopefully women who are thinking about religious life are passionate about their relationship with God and their desire to serve others. Mm-hmm. So I think that those would be the first two things I would be interested in.
Quickly, what would you like to ask
And
them?
to get to know themselves and be the best person that in their own unique gifts and their own interests. And then, because joining their lives in with others, we all bring our gifts, and hopefully we can bring out the best in each other.
We're going to talk a little bit more in particular about the Ursuline community, and also as you celebrate 140 years, we certainly want to lift that up as well. For more information on that topic and other related issues, visit the website of the Catholic Diocese of Youngstown at www.doy.org. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
By the time we can walk, each of us yearns for the joy that comes from being able to do for ourselves. Church World Service believes that being self-reliant is a joy everyone should share. So around the block or around the world, share the joy. Church World Service.
They say America is the land of opportunity, but for some, life isn't so easy. Right now in America, 1 in 6 children lives below the poverty line. That's nearly 13 million children of all races, all across our country. Where do you draw the line and get involved? You can make a difference in more ways than you think. Go to povertyusa.org today, because 1 in 6 children in poverty is one too many. A message from the Catholic Campaign for Human Development.
Our song today is from the CD entitled Come Unto Me. It is by Reno Angelini.
Children of Jerusalem, they welcomed Christ the King. They carried olive branches and loudly praising Him. They spread their cloaks upon the road and loudly praised the Lord. Hosanna to the Son of David. Hosanna to the Son of David. Hosanna to the Son of David. Blessed are you who have come to us so rich in love and mercy. Blessed are you who come in the name of the Lord. Hosanna to the Son of David. Hosanna to the Son of David. Hosanna to the Son of David.
All you peoples, clap your hands and shout to God with cries of gladness for the Lord the Most High. The awesome is the great King over all the earth.
children of Jerusalem, they welcome Christ the King. They carried olive branches and loudly praising Him. They spread their cloaks upon the road and loudly praised the Lord. Hosanna to the Son of David. Hosanna to the Son of David. Hosanna to the Son of David. Blessed are you who have come to us so rich in love and mercy. Blessed are you who come in the name of the Lord. Hosanna to the Son of David. Hosanna to the Son of David. Hosanna to the Son of David.
God mounts his throne amid shouts of joy, the Lord amid trumpet blast. Sing praise to our God, sing out his praise. Sing praise to our King, sing praise.
The children of Jerusalem, they welcome Christ the King. They carried olive branches and loudly praising Him. They spread their cloaks upon the road and loudly praised the Lord. Hosanna to the Son of David. Hosanna to the Son of David. Hosanna to the Son of David. Blessed are you who have come to us so rich in love and mercy. Blessed are you who come in the name of the Lord. Hosanna in the highest. Hosanna in the highest. Hosanna in the highest.
Our scripture reflections for this 24th Sunday in Ordinary Time will be done by Father Larry Frent, pastor of St. Louis Church in Louisville.
John Wayne appeared in 175 movies. He won an Academy Award in the movie True Grit in 1969. Many people remember John Wayne in Red River, The Sands of Iwo Jima, and The Quiet Man. If there were one brief sentence uttered by John Wayne that would kind of surprise you, it would be the one that he uttered in the movie The Greatest Story Ever Told. He played the role of a Roman centurion. And what did he say as he witnessed the crucifixion of Jesus? He said, "Clearly this man was the Son of God." That came in the 15th chapter of Mark's Gospel, near the end of the book of Mark. Mark has 16 chapters. And it's kind of ironic. This pagan soldier recognizes Jesus in suffering. So what's the significance of this? It helps us understand the gospel that was proclaimed today. Today's gospel comes in the middle of the book of Mark, in chapter 8. And many stories in chapters of Mark leading to chapter 8 are miracle stories. They feature Jesus healing people, enabling the paralyzed to walk, the blind to see, the deaf to hear, and enabling those who are unable to speak plainly to do so. They feature Jesus feeding thousands of people, walking on water, quieting a storm, and expelling demons. Nothing was beyond his powers. And how did the crowds react to all of these miracles? With amazement. They were awestruck. They were astonished. Now understand, we can compare this book of Mark to a drama. All of this leads up to a big question. Who is Jesus? And Peter is on the right path at first when he says that Jesus is the Messiah, the Anointed One. And then Peter took a faulty turn. He thought that there was no room in this plan for the Messiah to suffer. And we know that Jesus set the record straight. He said, "If anyone wants to become my follower, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me." Taking up a cross, if we are to be disciples, it's something we must do. The gospel writer Luke adds that we must do so daily. And how far must we look to find this cross? Not very far. We find this cross when we watch the suffering of our loved ones. We find this cross when we realize our own limitations. We find this cross in the everyday frustrations of being misunderstood by those who don't share our values, or being rejected by people who have a far different agenda than our own. Taking up our cross is something that we don't have to search high and low to find. Our crosses have their own ways of finding us. Is there a challenge in all of this? Certainly, not in finding our crosses, nor in our crosses finding us, but in recognizing who Jesus is, realizing that we are united with the Lord in carrying our crosses. In a very real sense, we can compare our lives to Mark chapter 8. It's in the middle of the book of Mark, and we're in the middle of the time that comes between Jesus doing great things for us when he walked among people and our being able to fully appreciate God's gift of salvation. By taking up his cross, Jesus made a great difference for us as we take up our crosses. And it's important for us to talk about our crosses with Jesus, for an hour spent with the Lord is far greater than a lifetime without him. So how will taking up our crosses unite us with Jesus Christ? And how will taking up our crosses make a difference in the lives of those around us who take up their crosses too? For Wineskins, this is Father Larry Frent.
The leaners and the lifters. Anywhere in this world that you look, you will find them. The leaners approach life with their hands out and their palms up and say, "What's in it for me?" The lifters approach life with their sleeves rolled up and tools in their hands, and they say, "How can I help?" Which one are you? Wineskins is made possible by the annual Bishop's Appeal, the Catholic Communication Campaign, and St. Paul's Catholic Books and Gifts. Wineskins is produced by CTNY, the Catholic Telecommunications Network of Youngstown. I'm Father Jim Corda, thanking you for being with us. Have a blessed Sunday, and may God be with you.